Greetings to you all. In this episode, my intention is to start a study of the Bible book of Daniel. I wanted to warn you that ahead of time. If some of you have studied it and don't wish to again, you've got a couple months off. But I believe that there will be exciting things here to look at in the book of Daniel, telling us about the man, his time way back when, and what God had just shown through Daniel for what will be happening in the future. Some of that future is past already, some of it is yet to come. But we're going to be looking at that in Daniel. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the first chapter and part of the second chapter, and the title I call New Names, but the Same Men. The setting here is that we are looking at Babylon after it has conquered a lot of the lands around it. I have a map for you in a moment. And that land most recently is the one that involves us with Judah, the land where Daniel comes from. In chapter 1, we start out in the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and this will be around 605 BC, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the articles of the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put in the treasure house of his God. Now, we're looking after a time when the 10 northern tribes, called Israel, had been already captured by the Assyrians. Now, later date, the Assyrians have been taken over by the Babylonians. They want to extend their empire some more, and so they're coming after the southern kingdom, which would have been that of Judah and Benjamin, commonly called Judah. And so here we have this king now, who is king of Judah, and his people have been unfaithful to God, not turning to him, so the Lord says, fine, I'm going to let him have you. I'll let him just be your king for a while because you rejected me. And so they're going to have to learn their lesson the hard way. Here I give you a map of what's going on here. It says Persian Empire because that's the one that follows. After the Assyrian and the Babylonian, we have the Persians coming in. But you get the idea of the extent of it. They wanted to conquer a huge area for which there'd have to be sub-kings later on because the communications are so poor in such a large area here. And so this is what has been taken over. And now when he takes it over, obviously some people are killed in the besieging and the battles, and others are being taken captive. And it's a smart move by the leaders of Babylon to want to have the young, good, healthy minds, the best of the best, come and take over and be part of that kingdom there. It might keep our own people a little calmer to have their princes there, but also why not grow our kingdom by having the best of the bright minds we can have. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring in some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility. Young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them in the language and literature of the Babylonians. We want to take these young minds and raise them as Babylonian. We want to have the smart, healthy ones who have an aptitude for learning and language. Let's get the best of the best, have them join our side. And so in the course of taking these people, we find out that we're going to be bringing in our heroes from the story here. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that they were to enter the king's service. Among these were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Now, so we're looking at a lot of the lands that have been conquered are sending their young men there for training. 3 years sounds like, think of it as a military school or however you would, but they're joining the Babylonian Empire's schools to be trained as leaders here. And among them are these 4, Daniel and his 3 friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. Right? So we're looking at them having names that reflected their faith, their culture, and in order to kind of adopt them into the new culture, part of it is going to be, we're going to change the name. And so Daniel became Belteshazzar, and Hananiah, Shadrach, and Mishael becomes Meshach, and Azariah becomes Abednego. Just a quick look at these names here. When you see the EL at the end, El is the word for God in the Hebrew, so we have these people with names that refer to God. God is my judge. Who is what God is? When you see the end of the name with the IAH, Yah, we're talking about the personal name of God. All right? The Lord shows grace. The Lord helps. These were their names given by their parents. And so we want to change those names if we're Babylonians. We don't want them to worship the God of Israel. We want them to worship Babylonian gods and join our culture. So instead of Daniel, it's Belteshazzar. It's Bel who protects his life, not our God. For Shadrach, his name, Hananiah gets changed to Shadrach, which means command of Aku, one of the moon gods that they had there. Mishael becomes Meshach. And instead of who is what God is, it's who is what Aku is. And Azariah, instead of the Lord helps, it's Abednego, servant of Nego, one of their gods. And so they get these new names and they're stuck with them. This is what they will be called unless they're just talking amongst themselves. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. Remember, the king wants these guys in the best shape possible. Give them the best schooling, the best opportunity to succeed. And so he wants these guys to succeed. So he says, hey, you can have the kind of royal food that I get myself. You'll eat the kind of stuff that's on a king's table and for 3 years, training and treat you well. And Daniel decides instead, no, I'm not going to do this. That's contrary to my food laws, and I don't want to live like this. He doesn't want to eat stuff that's not kosher. So he asked permission from the chief official to not defile himself this way. Now, God had caused the official to show sympathy, he showed favor and sympathy to Daniel, and so, but he's still resolved that he's under orders. So here's the 4 boys here. Well, actually, we're not sure how old they were, but I think instead of looking at them as 12-year-olds, think of them more like 15 or so, or 15, 18, mid to later teens. So when they're done with their 3 years, they're old enough as adults to take some responsibilities. But at the moment, they're all 4 saying, no thanks, I don't want that kind of Babylonian food, no matter how good you think it is, it's not right for me. But the official told Daniel, hey, I'm afraid of my lord the king. Flat out, I don't want to get in trouble with the emperor here, the king who assigned you food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would have my head because of you. Daniel then said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please, test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare us to our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food. And treat your servants in accordance with what you see. Give it a test. Just 10 days, do it our way, and see what the result is. And so it's agreed. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. The rest of them might have been eating all kinds of sweets and whatever. But God blesses these 4, so they're going to be coming out healthy. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. So God grants them some ability for wisdom. You're going to learn fast. You're going to have knowledge. You'll retain what you learn. And in addition, Daniel has been given ability to understand visions and to interpret dreams. So we get the introduction to the book here on what's going to be happening. 4 young men captured, taken in captivity, far away from home, far away from everything they knew, being thrown into a new culture, told you got to change, and they're trying to resist us a little bit and still maintain their identity, even though we might have to look at different names. Later in the book, you'll be seeing Belteshazzar as his name, but most of the time, it'll be Daniel. This book of Daniel, some people would want to say was not written by Daniel because he always uses third person. And instead of saying, I did this, I said that, it's Daniel said this, Daniel did that. And so they want to somehow subvert what seems to be the case here. In addition, There are some who think that the prophecies we'll be looking at later on are way too accurate to have come back in the 4th, 5th century BC. It must have been written after the events in order to make it come out so good. So they deny the miracles and want to redate the book because of that. I just want to tell you that's another viewpoint. I happen to take the Bible a little more conservatively and literally than that. So these men are going to be blessed by God in the future, and here it comes. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them in, at the end of the 3 years, the chief priest presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. They got the jobs to help run the country. And that would give them an ability to help their own people to succeed and be able someday to return. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. So it wasn't just a matter of they beat out the other boys for this job. They were better than the professionals he's had working with him for years. So he sends them out. He's going to have the other 3 kind of go out to the suburbs here, so to speak, and Daniel he's going to keep right there nearby. Daniel remained there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. So he's going to stay there a long time. We're going to see him staying for another king, as he ages while in this time of captivity. Chapter 2. In the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. I normally wake up, I can't remember what I dreamed. But I imagine if somebody has a recurring dream of something that's just totally upsetting, you want to do something about it. So the king summoned the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, the astrologers, to tell them what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, now before I go on, notice what it says here. He brings all these guys in who are supposed to be his good advisors, and he wants them to tell him what he had dreamed. He said to them, I've had a dream that troubles me. I want to know what it means. And then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, that'd be a common tongue. O king, live forever. Tell your servants a dream, and we'll interpret it. In other words, you tell us a dream, we'll tell you what it means. And the king is hearing this and said, He replied to the astrologers, this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I'll have you cut to pieces and your houses turned to piles of rubble. And this is how we're going to make sure it really works. You're going to have to tell me what I dreamed, as well as tell me what it means. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you'll receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me. Their response. Once more they replied, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we'll interpret it. Come on, just let's do this how we always have done it. You tell us, we'll figure out a good interpretation that everybody likes. Then the king answered, I'm certain that you're trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is just one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me. Here we go, guys. That's it. What are you going to do about it? Their response is still firm. There's no way they can do this. And they say so. The astrologers answer the king, there's not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they don't live among men. So they're responding, nobody knows what somebody else dreams. We barely know what we dream. But if so we can help you, we'll find an interpretation, but you got to tell us what you're asking for is impossible. Nobody can reveal dreams except the gods. And they don't live among men. Little do these guys know there is one God that can live among men, right? This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. They weren't called in with the astrologers, but they're part of the wise men. And so the wise men from all over are being brought in together because they're all going to die if they can't interpret the dream. And these guys say, we can't do it. So they're all going to have a mass execution very soon. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, "Why did the king issue such a harsh decree?" Arioch explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went to the king. So he just, let's go stop this, nip it in the bud here. Daniel went to the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. Hey, don't kill us. Give me a chance. Give me a little time. I'll tell you what you want to know. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And he urged them to plead for mercy from God, the God of heaven, concerning the mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. We don't want to die. God, you're going to have to give us an answer here. We need your help. You are the God who lives among men. So could we please have some answer? They're pleading with God over this issue. And so sometimes we realize people we often pray casually? Or we just kind of say, oh yeah, now I lay me down to sleep, I ask the Lord my soul to keep, or yeah, rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub. Well, simple prayers, instead of getting serious with God. Well, here's a serious matter. Our lives are in jeopardy. We're going to die if you don't help us here. You've got to tell us what is the untold. You have to reveal to us the impossible. God, will you do this for me? So the four of them are going to spend time in prayer to get the answer from God. This is what we have to do in being a praying people. And so I want to close this session here with this thought. When in doubt, pray. When you're not sure what else to do, don't just go crazy and start worrying, all right? We shouldn't be worriers. Well, we have a God. And so we should turn instead in our trouble to pray. And so I think oftentimes we don't do that very well. I'm going to be pausing at this point, and we'll take it up from here next time with the rest of chapter 2. In the meantime, when you're in doubt, pray. When you're worried, pray. When you're happy, pray. Celebrate. Somehow, the God who's sharing this life with you deserves to have your company. So spend time with him, talk to him, get some answers that nobody else can give you. God bless you.